Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and this time we've got the pleasure of watching for Germany 07 playing in the Tier 7 French tank destroyer, the AMX AC 1946. And the reason why I sound so surprised is that I really never thought that this was going to be a tank that would be featured on this channel. This is known as a stinker of a Tier 7 tank destroyer. But you know, after having a once over on the stats, it doesn't all look that bad. Found out that the tank has got 120mm of frontal armor and also 10 degrees of gun depression. And when you fully depress this gun, that means that your opponents are going to be aiming up at quite well angled 120mm of armor, giving this tank between 200 on the main plate up to 230mm on the side cheek plates here frontally, which is rather nice. But of course you have to watch out for these horrible stinking cupolas, which are gigantic. Your opponents can shoot you a mile away in them. And also they're 100mm thick rather than 120mm thick. Now for Germany, 07 is using the 90mm gun on this tank rather than the top gun, which is the 100mm. Now that gun has 20mm less of penetration, but its aim time is just so much better. It's 2.3 seconds rather than 2.9 seconds, and you also get better dispersion values when you're turning the gun. Frankly, the 90mm, it's not often that a smaller gun is going to be better, apart from some vehicles where they do have those derpy guns, right? Like, for example, on the OI, I prefer to use the 105mm or the 10cm gun compared to the 150mm. But in this case, when you've got a gun which just has a higher caliber round and is also higher penetration, generally those are better, I feel. But that's not the case here. Your alpha damage goes from 240 to 300, but your rate of fire dips by quite a lot, which means that your DPM goes from 1,800 up to 2,086, and yes, I've got the specific stats there that I'm reading off, for when you use the 90mm gun. And so, really, if you have unlocked that 100mm on this vehicle, I really don't think that this is the tank to be using it on. And that's a bit weird, because it's not really until you get the Tier 8 French tank destroyer, the 1948, that I really feel that that 100mm comes into its own. But then again, you can use the 120mm on that vehicle. Pretty weird, hey, for those French tank destroyers. But for Germany, 07 has managed to get himself into a rather nice position here, and it's very clear that he doesn't have a very experienced crew because he doesn't have sixth sense, so we're not going to know when he gets spotted. It's always a really nice thing to know in your tank destroyers. Now undoubtedly, for Germany is in a rather nice matchup here, but there's a VK3002M who's making his way towards him. Maybe he thinks this 1946 is the weak tank that a lot of people expect it is in World of Tanks, and thinks he's got a tasty snack right ahead of him. In fact, this VK3002M is going to fire some APCR rounds at the front of the 1946, and let's just see how well that they do against this 120mm of well-angled armor. So for Germany figures out that he can't waste time with the VK3002M. He fires one into him, and then he correctly turns his tank towards the medium tank. Great play there for Germany. He knows that the VK was waiting until he thought that the 46 was not paying him attention. He fires one, and then before he's even made it over the slope, he's ready to aim at him again. This VK3002M can't compensate with firing premium rounds to go through this 120mm armor, and finally he stops auto-aiming and manages to penetrate one shot, two shots, but it's too late. The E25 just stealing that kill for Germany there. 739 damage done to that VK3002M. Great result there. And now this Crusader just doesn't really have a chance. He repairs the tracks, but drives straight out into the open again. And for Germany, shows some great marksmanship to be able to finish him off. Well, this is a pressure shot here on the Cromwell. Oh, great hit. He is keeping his team in it right now. 4 kills up, 2,000 damage, 4 minutes into the game, but his team is still down by 4 tanks with 3 versus 7, so he's going to have to keep his carry pants on if he wants to get through this one. Just take a look at this rate of fire. It's pretty darn good, but this tank, it's a bit ironic really that his account name is for Germany, right? And he's kind of playing the French Jagdpanther. This vehicle is so similar to the Jagdpanther, but I still think that the Jagdpanther is just better. Fair enough, the Jagdpanther only has 80mm of frontal armor, and it only has 8 degrees of gun depression compared to the 10 degrees that this tank gets, which makes it just so flexible over ridgelines. And fair enough, if you choose to use the 105mm gun on the Jagdpanther, while your aim time is awesome, you don't quite have the penetration that you do if you choose to use either the 90 or the 100mm on the French variant of these tanks. Now, the mobility on the 1946 is pretty darn good, actually. We're going to be able to see that Ford Germany is going to race back to try and defend the cap circle against some tier 7s and a few tier 6s on the enemy team. 3 tier 7s and 3 tier 6s to be exact. So this tank is not slow, not at all. We don't know if he's got the top engine yet. He might do, he might not do. This vehicle does have a top speed limit of 50 kilometers an hour, which does make it quite fast for a tank destroyer. Again, a lot like the Jagdpanther. Unfortunately for Germany, that sounds a bit weird to say that, right? Unfortunately for Germany, the E25 on his team is now dead, leaving him in a 1 versus 6 situation. Let's see how he's able to get through this one. And there's a VK3001D on the enemy team, a tier 6 German medium tank there. And look what 10 degrees of gun depression does in this tank, and the 2.3 seconds of aim time that this vehicle has with the 90mm compared to the 2.9 seconds of aim time that Ford Germany would have if he was using the 100mm. And just look at this 10 degrees. I can't believe it. This tank is just so darn flexible over this ridgeline. Now he's down to 70 hit points in a 1 versus 6 situation. I thought when I first watched this replay, come on, you're kidding me, right? He's doomed. Luckily for him, the KV2, old dirty bastard on the enemy team, who has picked up 3 kills, doesn't quite manage to get his 4th, as for Germany shuts him down, and now he has to deal with 2 tanks that are trying to cap his base. Puts a good shot in there, and this IS misses his shot. 10 degrees of gun depression allows him to work some shots right through the railroad there, connects the hit in, taking out the tier 7 Soviet heavy tank. And a 1 versus 6 quickly turns into a 1 versus 3. Fantastic plays by Ford Germany here. He really has played pretty much a flawless game so far. I don't think there's anything more that he could have done to be able to get his team back into this game. 4,000 damage is a gigantic amount to do in any tier 7 tank, let alone a tier 7 tank that, let's be honest, probably isn't the most go-to for being competitive. So there's an OI Experimental, that dastardly tier 5 Japanese heavy tank. 320 alpha damage, but not quite enough penetration to challenge the well-angled 120mm of armor that Ford Germany has on the front of this French tier 7 tank destroyer. So the OI Experimental is cowering behind that dead ARL-44. Bit of a weird turret on that tank, right? Hey guys? And Ford Germany is just trying to sneak a shot into the side. But I really feel like there's not much that he can do here. It sounds like people are shooting at him, probably the Tiger. We don't know where the Tiger is, but he can hear the shells whizzing past his tank, and so he decides that he wants to pull back right now. Hopefully the OI Experimental is no longer spotting him, or maybe just sits behind that tank. Anyway, he's got to take the risk. He feels like he's going to get flanked by the Tiger, and he wants to secure the position more towards the north to hopefully not get shot in the side. Now, while this tank does have rather nice frontal armor for its tier, its side armor is absolutely garbage, and it is gigantic as well. What a tall tank this is with the profile. And that means that if you do get caught in the side, you're not going to be around long past your hit points. 820 hit points on this tank, not the best. And when you've only got 70 left, like for Germany here, facing 3 tanks, for which the Tigers might be on their full amount of hit points, he's got to have some luck here. Talk about luck. That is a great shot. On the move, with a gigantic melon reticule on his screen. He puts the second one right into the turret. Great job there, and he keeps moving. Where the hell are those Tigers? We can hear the shells just whizzing past his tank, but not hitting his vehicle. Now, the 46 has taken quite a few hits this game. He's taken 1,110 blocks, but that's not really a huge amount. But it really was the gun depression and the fact that those tanks in the cap circle certainly underestimated him. And I think also that KV2 with his chancy shot, that, I'm not even kidding you. That, by the way, I wasn't just being mean to this KV2 earlier. His name is literally old dirty bastard. So we're going to have to let that slide, right? I think that KV2 was very surprised at the DPM that this 90mm has. It's nearly 2,100. Not quite as good as the Jagdpanther, which gets a ferocious 2,350 with the 105mm that tank gets. But still, the 46, it's showing that it's actually an okay tank. Now, I remember when I first played this vehicle, it was quite fun to get into because it was no longer the ARL V39, which a lot of people play and just think is an absolute disaster. I didn't really mind the ARL too much. I got some funny feeling that I used a gun that's higher caliber than the one that I'm using here on the ARL. I think I used 100mm or 105mm with the 300 alpha damage, unless I'm getting completely confused. Absolute bizarre gun. But I feel like it's a bit weird that then you would use the 90mm on the 1946. But I guess it makes sense if the stats don't lie. Don't lie, hey guys. So those two Tigers, where the hell are they right now? I'm sure For Germany is wondering just as much as I am. And I still can't get over the fact that this guy's name is For Germany and he's having to take out two Tigers on the enemy team here in a tier 7 French tank destroyer. Talk about playing for the other side, hey guys. But I digress. Where are the Tigers likely to be? Well, they were last spotted in the most bizarre locations, and the fact that they didn't advance to be able to get his flank strongly suggests that maybe one of them might be... I don't know. I could not put my finger on where the hell those Tigers would be right now. Well, I guess Detective QuickyBaby is no longer needed. I'm out of a job, guys, because one of them is inside the cap circle. And so For Germany immediately starts to race back along the path to be able to get back to defend the base. Rinse and repeat. I wonder if he's going to go into the same position that he was just in. He's got 1 minute and 20 seconds. That's more than enough for this fairly mobile French tank destroyer to be able to make it back. But remember, there are two Tigers on the enemy team, and only one of them is capping. I wonder where the other one could be. Look at that graveyard. Oh, wait a minute. We can't look at the graveyard right now. And oh dear. Looks like For Germany has found an AFK Tiger. But how long can you afford to shoot at an AFK Tiger? He thinks about just leaving. And he decides, oh, this treat is too tasty. I guess maybe that he really wants the Pools medal and just to feast on this damage. But he really should be starting to make his way back towards the cap circle now, as he only has 42 seconds to be able to interrupt. A little bit of luck there. He sets that AFK Tiger on fire, securing his 10th kill. But he's only left himself with 32 seconds now to be able to get back to the cap circle. The acceleration on this tank doesn't look fantastic. You know, I got a sneaking suspicion that For Germany doesn't have the top engine here, but 20 seconds left. He also says in chat, I fail. Yes, For Germany, you really did fail. You farmed an AFK Tiger that you could have come back to take at the end, but I guess you really wanted to secure the Pools medal and that extra tasty bit of damage, right? 6 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it's... Oh my goodness gracious, he literally couldn't have held it any longer there. Great interrupt, securing the defender medal, interrupting the cap and saving the game for his team. For Germany says, huh? I don't think he can even believe what's going on. Earlier on, For Germany said, what is this? He can't believe what he's seeing right here. Is he going to be able to flank this Tiger? Is he going to be able to put in another few shots? The Tiger is on 552 hit points, so it's very likely that he's going to have to shoot him 3 more times to be able to take him down. And unlike the previous Tiger, this one is not AFK, and he does have a kill. That means that he's got to be a little bit dangerous, right? He's also played 17,000 games of World of Tanks, so you'll think that the Tiger on the enemy team certainly is a threat when you're only on 70 hit points. The Tiger, fortunately, is not facing the right way. For Germany, comes around the corner, puts a good roll of 245 into him, slightly above average, and starts to pull back. The Tiger, bizarrely enough, turns his tank round, but doesn't turn it the whole way. For Germany doesn't want to expose his cupolas, because remember, the top of these tanks are very weak, and if you can see your opponents over a ridgeline, unless you're depressing your gun a lot, they will be able to see you. Now, what I would like to see For Germany do here is to maybe try and harass from this location, possibly that location, or go all the way around again to go and attack the Tiger. He's reversing away. Will he go back in? This is the decision where you might go left, you might lose, you might go right, you might win. This one's a tricky one. Looks like For Germany is deciding that he wants to go the long way round. So he's off on his travels and he decides against it for some reason. He's certainly not trying to confuse the Tiger there, because he was no longer spotted. Now, the correct play there might have been to turn around the tank and to make it look like you were running away until you were no longer spotted, and then to turn your tank around. But the Tiger is actually waiting for him. He puts a shot into his tank, and unfortunately, it doesn't look like this Tiger is the strongest of players, and For Germany simply just takes him out at the end of this round. So what a fantastic result for Germany here, and I still feel like I'm commentating on some kind of a sporting event whenever I say your name. Look, when I was looking through some of your awesome replays today, I didn't expect to see such a great result in a tier 7 tank, let alone in the AMX AC MLE 1946, which is renowned as a little bit of a stinker in the French tank destroyer line. But anyway, let's just take a quick look at the post-game stats. This was an AMX AC 46 masterclass. This was the second highest damage of all time in this tank on any replay website. And for Germany was rewarded accordingly with the Spartan medal for ricocheting around with less than 10% of your hit points left, a Pulse medal for the 11 kills that he picked up, a high caliber medal for the 7,145 damage. That's just absolutely stupid. A defender medal as well with only a second left on the clock. A tank sniper medal for doing the highest amount of damage at 300 meters. A steel wall, how much did he manage to block this game? Well, not too much actually, 1,110 with only 13 rounds hitting his tank. That is a very weak steel wall, and I guess it was because you're the only one left alive. And he also picked up the one that everyone wants, the Kolobanov's medal for standing alone against at least 5 opponents. In this case 6, but if we take one away because one of the Tigers was AFK, it's still a legit Kolobanov's. For Germany's 0-7, this certainly was a round of a lifetime, and thank you so much for uploading it on the replays.quickybaby.com website. I certainly enjoyed it, and hopefully you guys did as well. If you did, please consider giving this video a like down below. It really helps the channel out. Or are there any highlights that you would focus on and recommend that people keep as they work their way up to the Foch 155 with that monster autoloader? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.